I want to tell you something that took me 15 years inside the luxury fashion industry to understand clearly. The women who walk into a room and register instantly as elegant, as expensive, as composed, as women who belong in important spaces, are almost never wearing the most elaborate outfits. They are almost never wearing the most recognizable brands. What they are doing every single time is wearing color in a way that most women have never been taught. Not more color, not bolder color. Color in specific combinations governed by principles that are almost never written down explicitly, because the women who know them learned them by being in rooms where these things were simply understood. They were not taught in fashion school. They were not posted on Pinterest boards. They were absorbed over years in environments most women never had access to. Most women approach color one of two ways. They match everything, which reads as effort rather than ease. Or they avoid color entirely, retreating to all black, which solves the problem by eliminating it and creates a different problem entirely, particularly after 50. Today, I'm giving you 7 specific color combinations with the exact principle behind each one that will permanently change how you dress and how you are received when you walk into any room. Before we go into the details of today's video, I have a free gift for you. It's something I know you'd appreciate. I have read a lot of comments from some of you asking for this, and I decided to build a checklist around it. It is called the Elegant Morning Routine Checklist, 12 rituals of women who are timeless, healthy, and undeniable after 40. It is the morning architecture that puts everything I described today into daily practice. Cortisol protection, protein-first nutrition, movement, silence, grooming standards, and the identity rituals that make all of it sustainable. Every page is a deliberate act of self-respect. See the first link in the description below to grab it right now for free, or scan the QR code on your screen if you're watching on TV. When you do get it, remember to email me your feedback about your takeaway from it. I love to read those emails. Now let's get into today's 7 combinations. 1. Tonal variation within a single hue, why matching is the enemy of elegance. The most common mistake women make with color is also the one that feels the safest: matching. Same shade, top to bottom, piece to piece. It feels coordinated, it feels considered, and it reads, to anyone who understands how expensive dressing actually works, as the single clearest signal that someone learned about color from a department store display rather than from observation. I'm going to show you what expensive dressing actually looks like in terms of color. But first, there is something you need to understand about why matching fails. In my years as a buyer and consultant for luxury fashion brands, I attended more trunk shows, showroom presentations, and editorial fittings than I can accurately count. And one pattern repeated itself without exception across every brand at the top of the market. Their lookbooks never showed a matched outfit. The camel blazer was paired with a slightly deeper camel trouser. The ivory blouse sat against an oak-colored skirt. The cream coat was layered over a warm white roll neck. The colors were related, unmistakably from the same family, but they were never identical. I asked a creative director at one of the houses I worked with why this was a deliberate choice. Her answer was precise. Matching tells people you tried to coordinate. Tonal variation tells people you understand color. Those are 2 completely different messages. The psychology behind this has been examined in visual perception research. Studies on how observers assess the appearance of outfits found that exact color matching across multiple garments reads as deliberate and formulaic. The brain perceives it as an obvious attempt at coordination and processes it as effort. Slight tonal variation within a color family, by contrast, is processed as sophistication. The brain reads it as the kind of nuanced color knowledge that comes from long familiarity with quality clothing rather than from following a rule. Resolve. The rule is this: never match exactly. Instead, choose 2 or 3 pieces from the same color family, camel and tan and ivory, for example, or slate and steel and dove, and allow them to vary in depth and warmth while remaining unmistakably related. The darkest shade anchors the outfit, the lightest lifts it, the middle tone connects them. This is tonal dressing. It is the foundation of every combination that follows. Here is where most people stop, and the next combination addresses a specific pairing that has signaled wealth and refinement across every culture and every century of documented fashion history. Most women assume they know what it is. They are almost always wrong. 2. Warm neutral and muted jewel, the timeless wealth signal. If I asked most women to name the color combination that reads as wealthy and refined across cultures, across decades, across every context, most would say black and white. It is the obvious answer. It is also not the correct one. The combination that has signaled quiet, generational wealth consistently across time is one most women have never been told to reach for deliberately. I'm going to name it and explain exactly why it works. But first, there is something you need to understand about why black and white, for all its elegance, does not carry the same signal. My mother, Claudine, had a particular way of dressing that I absorbed before I had the vocabulary to describe it. She was from Lyon, a city with a tradition of textile and color that runs centuries deep, and she dressed with a specificity about tone that I recognized as distinct from how most of the American women around me dressed, but could not articulate until my career gave me the framework for it. Her version of dressed up was almost never black and white. It was a warm camel coat over a deep teal dress, an oyster silk blouse tucked into a muted plum skirt, a stone-colored blazer with deep forest green trousers. These were the combinations that carried her through every important room she entered, and they shared a precise characteristic: a warm neutral, something with yellow, amber, or sand undertone, paired with a jewel tone that had been muted, desaturated, pulled toward gray or brown, rather than left at its full intensity. The reason this pairing reads as wealth rather than simply as color is grounded in the history of textile production. Saturated, bright jewel tones were historically achievable with synthetic dyes at mass-market price points. Muted, desaturated jewel tones, teal pulled toward slate, burgundy pulled toward brown, forest green pulled toward olive, required more complex dyeing processes and more expensive natural dye sources. The muted version was the expensive version. The brain has retained this association even as production costs have changed. Resolve. The combination: one warm neutral, camel, stone, sand, oyster, ivory, paired with one muted jewel, muted teal, muted plum, muted forest, muted amber. The key word is muted. If the jewel tone looks like it belongs on a crayon, pull it darker and grayer before you wear it. This pairing works in every season, every context, and at every formality level. It is the most versatile, elegant combination in existence. But here is where most people stop. And the next combination concerns an element most women are already wearing, but wearing in a way that is quietly canceling every other correct color decision they make. Combination 3. The metallic you are wearing wrong. Most women think about metallic in terms of which metal, gold versus silver, and whether it matches their jewelry. This is the wrong framework entirely. The question that determines whether a metallic element elevates an outfit or collapses it has nothing to do with which metal and everything to do with one specific principle that almost no one names explicitly. In my consulting work, I reviewed hundreds of editorial looks across European luxury houses over 15 years. And I noticed a consistent principle in how the houses that dressed the most impeccably turned out women used metallic. They never used it as the temperature anchor of the outfit. They used it as a single, deliberate interruption in an otherwise tonal or neutral palette. And that interruption was always warm or cool to match the underlying temperature of the palette it was interrupting, never in conflict with it. A woman I know, a corporate attorney who has sat across from some of the most scrutinizing audiences in American law, told me she had worn a cool-toned silver belt with a warm camel outfit to an important dinner and could not understand why the overall effect felt slightly off, despite each individual piece being beautiful. I looked at a photograph she showed me. The silver was fighting the warmth of everything around it. The outfit had no coherent temperature. The metallic, which should have been a focal point, was instead a disruption. The principle from color theory that explains this: every palette has a temperature. Warm palettes, camel, ivory, tan, rust cream, want warm metallics: gold, bronze, champagne, antique brass. Cool palettes, slate, navy, dove gray, white, want cool metallics: silver, white gold, platinum, pewter. Introducing the wrong temperature metallic into a palette is the visual equivalent of one note played slightly flat in an otherwise correct chord. The ear and the eye registers the conflict without always being able to name it. Resolve. Before you add any metallic, jewelry, shoes, bag hardware, belt, ask one question. Is this outfit warm or cool? Then match the temperature of your metallic to the answer. Warm palette, gold, bronze, champagne. Cool palette, silver, pewter, white gold. This single adjustment is the difference between a metallic element that elevates and one that disrupts, which is exactly what the Undeniable's complete system covers in detail. 7 complete guides, including identity, presence, first impressions, social mastery, wellness, standards, and your morning ritual. Everything the most elegant, vital, and undeniable version of you needs, built into one system for less than a dinner out. It's linked in the description below, or scan the QR code on your screen. And here is where most people stop, and the next combination addresses something that has become widely discussed but almost never correctly explained. Tonal dressing. 4. Why tonal dressing reads as quiet wealth. Tonal dressing, wearing one color family head to toe, has become a recognized aesthetic in recent years. Most people explain its elegance as simplicity. Less is more. The absence of contrast reads as refined. That explanation is incomplete, and more importantly, it does not tell you how to execute tonal dressing correctly. Because tonal dressing done wrong reads as monotonous, not expensive. The reason it reads as quiet wealth when done correctly is more specific than simplicity. I'm going to give you the real mechanism. But first, there is something you need to understand about what the eye is doing when it processes a tonal outfit. I dress tonally for any room where I want my presence, my composure, my conversation, my credibility to be the primary signal rather than my clothing. A board dinner, a significant client meeting, any environment where I want people to register me, not my outfit. This is a deliberate choice, and I made it deliberately for the first time in my early 40s. After watching how the most commanding women in the rooms I moved through dressed for high-stakes occasions. They were almost always in one color family. And what I observed, and what I have since understood through both my study of visual perception research and my years in the luxury industry, is that the reason tonal dressing communicates authority is not that it is simple. It is that it is controlled. A tonal outfit demonstrates that the wearer has the color knowledge to work within a single family and find enough variation within it to create visual interest. That is a more sophisticated skill than combining multiple colors. The outfit says, I understand color well enough that I don't need contrast to make this work. Research on status perception in dress found that outfits with high internal coherence, where every element belongs to a clearly considered system, were rated significantly higher in perceived status and intelligence than outfits with the same individual pieces assembled without a unifying principle. Tonal dressing is the most legible form of internal coherence available in a palette. Resolve. To execute tonal dressing with authority, choose one color family, then vary 3 things within it: depth, warmth, and texture. Lighter shade on top, deeper shade on bottom. Matte finish paired with slight sheen. Structured piece paired with something softer. The variation creates visual interest. The tonal coherence creates the authority signal. This is the combination that reads as quiet wealth because it demonstrates exactly the level of color literacy that quiet wealth has always had. 5. Burgundy, the bold color that reads as restraint. Most women who want to incorporate bolder color into their wardrobe are told to start with accessories: a colored bag, a scarf, a shoe. Keep the body neutral and let one element carry the color. This is reasonable guidance for most bold colors. Burgundy is the exception, and most women either avoid it entirely, believing it too dark or too seasonal, or wear it without understanding why it consistently reads differently from every other color in the bold category. I'm going to explain exactly what burgundy is doing that no other bold color does. But first, there is something you need to understand about how the eye reads color temperature against skin. My mother wore burgundy the way most women wear navy, as a reliable, year-round anchor that worked with almost everything. I inherited that relationship with it without fully understanding why it was so consistently successful across so many different contexts and skin tones, until my years in the industry gave me the color science behind her instinct. Burgundy sits at the intersection of red and brown. It carries the warmth and depth of a jewel tone, while being simultaneously desaturated enough to read as a neutral in terms of visual weight. Red draws the eye because of its saturation and its psychological association with urgency and attention. Burgundy draws the eye because of its warmth and depth, but without the urgency signal, because the brown undertone dampens the activation response that pure red triggers in the visual cortex. The result is a color that is clearly not neutral, clearly deliberate, and yet does not read as attention-seeking. It reads as decided. A fashion director whose work I followed during my consulting years described burgundy as the only color that can anchor an entire look without dominating it. That is a precise description of what makes it different. You can wear burgundy as the primary color of an outfit, dress, trousers, coat, and it functions as an anchor rather than a statement. Resolve. Pair burgundy with warm neutral, camel, stone, cream, tan, for the most consistently elegant combination it produces. Burgundy with camel is the warm, neutral, and muted jewel pairing from combination 2 at its most accessible and most universally flattering. Wear burgundy as the dominant color, not the accent. Let it anchor. Add the warm neutral as the secondary element. This is the combination that reads as bold and restrained simultaneously, which is, in color terms, the definition of elegant. But here is where most people stop, and the next combination concerns the color most women default to as their anchor. And after 50, that default is doing something to the face that most women have not been told clearly enough to change it. Combination 6. Why black ages the face after 50 and what to wear instead. Black is the most relied upon color in most women's wardrobes. It is the default anchor, the safe choice, the color that goes with everything and requires no further thought. After 50, it is also the color that is most consistently working against the face of the woman wearing it near it. And the reason is physiological, not subjective. I'm going to give you the specific mechanism and the 2 colors that replace black as the correct dark anchor after 50. But first, there is something you need to understand about what happens to skin's undertone with age. I stopped wearing black anywhere near my face in my early 40s, not from a rule I had read, but from photographs. I noticed that in photographs taken at events where I wore a black neckline close to my face, my complexion looked flatter. The shadows under my eyes were more pronounced, and the overall effect was a slightly depleted version of myself. In photographs where I wore navy or deep espresso in the same position, the complexion read as warmer, brighter, and more vital. The dermatologist in my network explained the mechanism. As skin ages past 50, melanin distribution becomes less uniform. The skin's overall pigmentation lightens slightly, and the undertone frequently shifts warmer as the pinkness of youth recedes and yellow-golden undertones become more dominant. Pure black, which has no undertone at all, creates maximum contrast against the face. And high contrast near the face after 50 emphasizes every shadow, line, and area of uneven pigmentation rather than softening them. Navy, which carries a blue undertone, and deep espresso, which carries a warm brown undertone, create the depth and anchoring effect of black while reflecting enough warm or cool light toward the face to counteract rather than amplify the contrast effect. Resolve. Replace black as your dark anchor near the face with navy or deep espresso, chosen based on your skin's undertone. Cooler, pinker undertones, navy. Warmer, golden undertones, deep espresso. Neither requires you to abandon your existing wardrobe. They pair with everything black pairs with at every formality level, and they will consistently produce a more vital, more luminous result in the face of the woman wearing them. But here is where most people stop. And the final combination is the one that the most impeccably dressed women in important rooms use consistently, and that almost no one has identified as a color combination at all. Because it is not 2 colors. It is 1 color used in a way that most women have never tried. 7. 1 color in 3 textures, the most sophisticated combination of all. Every combination I have given you so far involves 2 or more colors working together. The final combination involves 1, and it is the combination that produces the most unmistakably expensive result of all 7, because it requires the most color confidence to execute and the most wardrobe sophistication to assemble. I'm going to show you exactly how it works, but first, there is something you need to understand about why texture is doing the work that color usually does. The women I have observed at the most significant dinners and events I have attended, board dinners, gallery openings, private fundraisers in New York and in Europe, who were dressed most impeccably were more often than I could count wearing a single color. Not tonal variation within a family, one color. But that color was appearing in a matte finish in one piece, a slight sheen in another, and a heavier, more textural weave in a third. The outfit had depth and visual movement without a second color in sight. I traced this approach consciously for the first time after a dinner I attended in Milan during a buying trip. A woman seated across from me was wearing what I can only describe as a study in ivory, a fine-knit ivory roll neck, an ivory crepe wide-leg trouser, and an ivory wool blazer with a very slight buccal texture. The colors were virtually identical. The outfit was extraordinary. The variation was entirely in the surfaces, matte, fluid, and textured in sequence. In color theory, this is understood as monochromatic dressing taken to its highest expression. The eye, encountering a single hue in multiple textures, is given variation to travel across without the cognitive work of reconciling color contrasts. The result is an outfit that reads as entirely intentional, entirely considered, and entirely at ease, because there is nothing competing for attention. Everything is in agreement. Resolve. Choose one color, ivory, camel, navy, stone, burgundy, and find it in 3 different textures within your wardrobe. Matte for one piece, fluid or slightly sheen for another, heavier or more tactile for a third. The color must be close enough across all 3 that the variation reads as intentional rather than mismatched, which means shopping for this combination deliberately, not assembling it from unrelated pieces. Here is the complete system of 7 combinations. 1 is tonal variation within a hue family, the foundational principle that distinguishes expensive dressing from matched dressing. 2 is warm neutral paired with muted jewel, the timeless wealth signal that has operated across every culture and every century of fashion history. 3 is temperature matched metallic, the single adjustment that prevents your metallic from canceling everything else you have gotten right. 4 is fully tonal dressing, one color family, varied in depth, warmth, and texture, producing the quiet authority that comes from demonstrated color literacy. 5 is burgundy as anchor, the only bold color that reads as restraint, paired with a warm neutral to produce the most accessible version of combination 2. 6 is navy or deep espresso replacing black near the face after 50, the physiologically correct dark anchor that works with skin rather than against it. And 7 is one color in 3 textures, the most sophisticated combination of all, the one that requires the most knowledge to build and produces the most unmistakably elegant result. These are not trends. They are not seasonal. They are principles. The kind that were always understood in the rooms where dressing well was never discussed because it was simply done. The next step is the full blueprint, the Undeniables Complete System, 7 complete guides covering identity, presence, first impressions, social mastery, wellness, standards, and your morning ritual. Everything the most elegant, vital, and undeniable version of you needs, built into one system for less than a dinner out. It is linked in the description. You came here for color combinations. What you are leaving with is a complete color intelligence that will serve you in every room, every season, for the rest of your life. I'll see you in the next one. Isabel.